Hey, look who it is. Michael Malice. How are you? Loving the book, buddy. Can't wait to have you on.
We're just being good moderates in here.
Being good moderates.
Keeping things nice and
Hold
moderate.
on, open the door. Open the door real quick. You go. I just want you to come into the camera. So I go, look, you don't want to go too extreme to the left
No, of
or to
course
the
not.
right. You want to find a nice area in the middle.
We're moderates
I just
over
wanted
here.
you to get in and get a little take of what my... here, jump on.
You want to be like...
Hold on, the mic's off. Give Brian a second.
Hurry up. That's a jerky voice joke. You want to be like Aristotle, the golden
right.
mean.
That's right. Aristotle, you're a Randian still this day, right? So that's
I
the
would consider
list
myself
of...
Randian, yeah. The three A's, she said.
That's right. There was Aristotle and then Rand, and there were no philosophers in between.
Aquinas.
Oh, I'm sorry, Aquinas.
Three A's.
That's
Aristotle,
right. That was
Aquinas,
it.
Ayn Rand. That's
no
the
one
list.
else did anything.
Yeah.
Everybody else.
If you read letters of Ayn Rand or journals of Ayn Rand, journals of Ayn Rand, the Ayn Rand Institute put it out, and they said, sure, if you read her journals, there's all this Nietzschean stuff in there, but it evaporated from her mind like dew from a leaf. And I'm like, this even sounds like mythology. Like the phrasing. It's in there. It's so fucking crazy.
No, well, and I know you have to go do your show, but I want
don't,
to
I'm
ask
done.
you about
I'm
that.
gonna
Oh,
get my
you're
hair
done?
done. Yeah,
okay.
yeah,
All right. Well, hang
10
for a
minutes.
minute then.
Yeah.
Hang for a few minutes. Look at that. This is what you can get on Part of the Problem. Pop-ins by Michael Malice when we pre-record
And I gotta
at
talk
2
to
p.m.
Robbie.
So isn't there
hell?
something interesting? That's right. You have to.
God damn it.
You have to. But you don't have to like look him
Is
in
that
the eye
Ralph
or
Steadman?
anything.
It is. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, well, you know better than me. So
He's
isn't there
famous
something
for fear
about
loathing.
that where even, and this is a problem I see with the left, because you just wrote this fantastic book that I got a pre-copy of, and
Yeah.
one of the major
I still don't have
themes,
a copy, by the way.
You don't have a copy?
no.
But you don't want to fucking read it. You already spent...
I do want a copy.
Yeah?
I do.
You
Just maybe one.
Well, why didn't you have them send you one?
They still haven't told me what the official release date is.
Oh, okay. Well, I got it. By the way,
Yeah.
cover art, really cool. I think the whole thing is great.
Well, you know,
Loving it.
it's a dog whistle.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
See, this is lost on me. I'm a simpleton.
Good. That's the point of a dog whistle, that some people don't hear it.
That's right. Only dogs hear it.
Yeah.
Who are we whistling
So maybe I'm
to?
just a human.
You know who.
The Jew haters.
The Jews. We're all Jews here.
But isn't there, because one of the major themes of your book is that progressivism.
Which we'll be discussing at length on your show next
Yes,
week.
yes, we will. I'm just giving one little
yeah.
piece of it, which you've mentioned on the show
Yeah,
before.
yeah.
Is that it is essentially a religion.
It's not essentially originally. It's a religion.
Okay,
Yes.
that it is a religion.
Yes.
And I completely agree with you. I think statism in itself is a religion, and progressivism is the latest kind of sub-religion in a way.
Okay.
Like that's but there's something interesting about everybody who claims to be an atheist.
Sure.
It's almost like some other religious impulse comes and just seems to fill that vacuum. Not every single time, but quite often. And what you were just talking about, even the Randian, the objectivists, who are saying this is almost like a religious exercise.
I got into it with a Randian, with an objectivist online.
Because you're not a good objectivist.
Well, I have a sense of humor.
That's already makes you not a good one.
And I'm an anarchist.
Yeah,
So, I'm
so you're
done.
just terrible. You're
I'm
yes.
done. I've had debates with Rucka Ali, who's a good buddy of mine. He's an objectivist, and his perspective is anarchists or libertarians are actually like worse than the communists because we're like perverting
the great Randian.
or perverting the truth.
Well,
Because if you're preaching for good ends without good means, you're basically fucking shit up
Right.
for everything in the process, which is a not crazy argument to make, but one I don't agree with. So I made the point that Rand had said that, she's never had to change her point of view on anything. And someone's like, oh my God.
That is such a godlike claim to
on.
make.
And-
That's something out of Kim Jong-un's mouth.
Yeah,
like, I've
you're
never
right.
changed my mind. That's
Right,
never
right.
happened.
And someone's like, oh my God, she's never say this. You're just projecting. And she was on, I found the receipts, motherfucker. She was on Tom Snyder. And he's like, how long you had these views? She goes, as long as I can remember myself, since age 3 or 5, one of those. So basically she goes, of course, I didn't know as much then as I know now, but I've never had to change my philosophy in terms of the particulars. Well, there's two approaches to this. One is at age 5, you deduced universal truth, which is possible. Or
Unlikely, but possible.
Or the Jonathan Haidt model, which, people stand on the shoulders of giants. He wasn't around then, which is people often have their conclusion and reason their way backwards. And I do have a line in, and this book is not Rand bashing. She's very much a heroine of the book because I've been on Tom Woods' show talking about this.
Mm-hmm.
I hate it, and you're not doing this at all. I'm not saying you are. People feel the need to attack her, and it's like if you if you are basically a doctor who's an oncologist and sometimes people get diarrhea, you are like one of the greatest heroes of mankind.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So it's just like, if you're going to be like, oh, she did this, this, and this, it's like what she has done and the courage of this woman is so much bigger than the minor flaws that
I
she
think that
brings.
Ayn Rand did more to spread the ideas of liberty than probably anody in modern history.
Yeah.
Probably anybody.
I don't read fiction, so I don't get it.
She wrote a lot of nonfiction.
Autism speaks. Why would I read a book that's not even real? These people don't.
Make it a movie.
That's all well and good for sheep, but what are we to do?
By the way, I've never been a huge fan of Ayn Rand's fiction. I actually think her nonfiction is way better.
I'll read some
than her
nonfiction.
fiction, to
Yeah,
be
but her
honest.
fiction is more persuasive because
But that is
exactly.
that is what persuaded so many people was her fiction. I mean, that's what had the impact.
And what she realized, and what conservatives don't really know what to do with, is that Hollywood is much more important in terms of propagating the progressive ideology than Noam Chomsky or even a Rachel Maddow, because then you kind of get the poison in with the candy.
And this is what like right wingers never get in general, is that even that movie that I think they got kicked off Twitter or whatever, that's like the abortion movie.
Yeah, Gosnell, that one? No,
Was
another
it?
one. There's
no,
different one.
it's
There's
this
different one.
woman
Yeah,
who
yeah,
worked at Planned Parenthood and then saw an abortion and then was like, I'm against abortion, and this is the movie. And you're like, you guys just don't know how to do this. This is why you have to almost leave it to the left, because the point isn't that you make a movie that goes, I'm against abortion. The point is you make a movie that's a good movie where the characters just happen to be against abortion.
give you a
That's how you subliminally affect culture.
Let me give you a great example of this, exactly what you're talking about. There's a trope in entertainment of the neurotic moral authority. It's Lisa Simpson, it's Tina Fey on 30 Rock, it's Alex on Modern Family. So the argument is, because this character is a neurotic mess, she's flawed, but in terms of her ideology, morality, she is the voice of, she's the conscience of
Right.
the show, and everything she says is true, and she's inevitably a vegan, far left, ideologue, Stalinist, right? People who are pro-choice will say freely that it would be great if more kids were adopted. Like this would, they're not against adoption. They would say this freely, and I'm sure they mean it. These characters in these shows often will have these fundraisers to help the environment and whatever. Can you imagine on a sitcom if you had a teenage girl who isn't even pro-life, and she goes, we're raising money to help this woman, instead of having an abortion, have the kid and have the kid adopted. It's her choice, but we're helping her financially because she doesn't want to have the abortion, but financially she doesn't know what to do. And it was just presented as morally neutral. The feedback would be nuclear.
Oh, yeah.
And yet this is something that ostensibly is morally great. Like, you're helping someone.
Even from a pro-choice perspective, you should be fine with this. Yeah, right.
So the fact that, or here's another concept that I've only seen twice in entertainment, which is a right-wing point of view. I've seen it once in Angel and I've seen it once in Degrassi. The idea that people consciously and knowingly do the wrong thing is never shown. It's always like, oh, it's society's fault, or, they don't know what they're doing, or they didn't realize what was going to happen. People do the wrong thing, knowing it's the wrong thing, every day. Most people do not have the courage of their convictions.
Yeah.
And you can never say this, because that is a very slippery slope for the left, which is based on the idea that everyone is good and has value, and people don't really do evil things. There must be some ulterior cause or exterior cause.
I've had a tweet the other day. Someone tweet at me. I was talking about at the beginning of the show. I was tweeting about abortion stuff, and which probably is a waste of time, but I was doing it. And this guy tweeted back
Wasting
at me.
time on Twitter.
Yeah, really. No one does Twitter better than you, by the way. Michael Malice is the best at Twitter.
Trump.
You know what?
Yeah, not even
I really
close.
should take that back.
It's not even
Trump
close.
Michael Malice is the best person I know at Twitter. Trump
yeah.
is the god of Twitter. To use more religious terms.
Yeah.
But someone tweeted back at me, and this is not a troll. I looked through his whole thing. This is real, because at first it's very hard to tell the difference between a leftist and a troll. You know what I mean? Like, I tweeted once, it's very hard to tell the difference between a leftist and a troll, and someone tweeted back at me, and they went, that's just your white male privilege. And I was like, yeah, but you see what you just did right there? Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know if you're a leftist or a troll. You could
Right,
be either.
Poe's law.
So it's very, but this guy tweeted, he goes, he was like, it's called empathy. Maybe you should try having it sometime. And I was like, what is that thing where you have to talk like a valley girl?
It's an EXE.
What is that?
So they have these executable programs that they run, and the syntax is always inevitable the same. So here's another one. They go, so ridiculous claim no one is making. Got it. So, like, for example, Dave's an anarchist.
Because I know you do great about this.
Yes. So you want the police to sit in their hands and people get murdered in the streets. Got it. So it's like, okay, no one's making this claim, and you're just putting these parentheses about it, and they use the same syntax because there's no minds
Just
there.
these templates of fucking like wasted nothing that
There's no mind.
Very strange.
It's not strange. It's the norm.
Yeah,
I
guess
think
it
they're
is.
the norm.
You're right. It's not
That's
strange
the norm.
at all. But it seems to a strange person like me, it seems
Someone who has
strange.
empathy, who actually has empathy and is trying to see things from other people's point of view. It's like you would never talk like that because it's not persuasive.
Well, like we talked about this on your show. Like I have become pro-life. I certainly wouldn't assume anybody who's pro-choice doesn't have empathy. I think that we're just placing empathy in different areas. That I'm thinking about the baby and you're thinking about the woman, and maybe you don't think a fetus is a baby or something like that. But I would never just assume, oh, if you're pro-choice, it's because you fucking love killing babies and want to hate them. That does seem to be something that you see much more dominant on the left, where there's this need to
you're
project.
Wrong. No, you're wrong.
Really?
Because when I saw that video of the governor from Virginia making those comments, and I tweeted this out, I go, okay, this is, to me, very abhorrent and on its face. I'm not interested in hearing from pro-life people. I want to hear the pro-choice defense of this.
Yes, I remember this.
Because I mean, the pro-life perspective on this is pretty obvious, and pro-lifers like yelling at me, oh, you're da-da-da, and I go... I just kept blocking them because I specifically said I'm not interested in hearing perspective, and it wasn't because I'm not interested in hearing perspective. It's because I know your perspective on this.
It's so
one.
obvious.
It's so and it's so valid.
Yes.
So I was just thinking about it again. And I got to bounce. There was an article this week in either Associated Press or like a major non-ideological thing. And Georgia, the governor just signed a bill into law, the heartbeat law. Basically, once there's a heartbeat, fetal heartbeat, like abortion's not allowed. And the article explains...
Which basically says abortion's not allowed because it cuts it to like 6 weeks. And,
and women don't even know they're pregnant.
I mean,
6
yeah,
weeks. That's a missed
exactly,
period.
yeah.
And there are quotes from this organization, which is a pro-choice advocacy organization, and Planned Parenthood. There were no quotes from a pro-life person defending the bill. And I'm sitting there, I'm like, okay, I want to hear the pro-life perspective. I want to, because the pro-choice perspective is pretty obvious here, because this is just the back door. What is your defense? And it's not even quoted. So there's not even a pretense of we're going to present two sides and let people make a decision, even though in this state the bill had actually been signed into law.
Right? Did it pass? Or
Yes, signed into law.
Okay, it is.
It's going to take place in January. I'm sure it's going to be court fought and struck down.
Yeah. Because it does seem like that would be. I mean, I'm for it, but it does seem like that would violate Roe v. Wade.
Yeah, it's. I mean, transparently.
So that would be interesting.
And
All
speaking
right,
of abortions, enjoy the rest of the show. And
let me tell you one
please.
quick story before you leave, just because we started with the objectivist thing. And this is what, by the way, I like Ayn Rand very much. I think for all the complaints you could have about her, she did a tremendous amount of good. But objectivists just drive me crazy with their dogmatic insistence on every. So I had a dinner once. And there was an objectivist. There was like several libertarians, and one of them was an objectivist. And he found out that I was an anarchist, and he goes to me. It's such a classic objectivist thing.
No.
He goes, "I'll convince you." He goes, "I'll convince you to not be an anarchist by the end of the dinner." And I said, "Okay, fine."
You can just say,
like,
"Hey man, can we just like enjoy the steaks? Can we do that?"
That was more or less my feeling
More like
on the issue.
More like mistakes.
How about
So he
how about
goes.
you talk at me? I'm gonna eat these fries.
So he says to me, he goes, "There's a band of thieves."
Oh, no.
Look at this.
I'm in physical pain.
This is already what he says. I'm going to convince you not to be an anarchist. He goes, there's a band of thieves. They're walking down the road. They're walking down a public road. This is his first words to me. They're walking down a public road.
Who will walk the
cops,
roads?
Right. The cops come up to them. They haven't aggressed against anybody, but they're carrying weapons and they're looking menacing. He goes, in your system, the cops can't initiate violence against them because of the non-aggression principle, because there can't be a state police.
That's the current system.
And I literally, I was like, by the second word, I just wanted to be like, but you just said public roads.
But
there are no public roads.
Hold on.
There's
But Dave, right now, if someone is open carrying, looking menacing, the cops can't stop them either.
Well, in some states they can't, right?
Yeah.
In open carry states.
Looking
but I just said
menacing.
But I just said right away to him. I go, oh well, in an anarcho-capitalist society there wouldn't be public roads. It's an anarchist society, so the roads are private and the road owners can do whatever they want to do. And he just looked furious at me, like he thought he just had the nail in the coffin of anarchy. And I was like, but this isn't even even an anarchist situation.
This was Rand's big argument against it. And you know when people are sarcastic, they haven't done the mental homework. Or when people say something is obvious, what they really mean is apparent. Because things that are obvious in politics aren't necessarily true because it's so complicated or anything social. So her argument was, let's suppose I have one defense agency and you have another, and I shoot you, and both defense agencies show up at the door. What happens now? And it's like, okay, but she says it as if there's no possible solution.
Right.
You know what I mean? And the answer to that, which is very obvious, is if a Canadian kills an American in Mexico, what happens? I don't know. You don't know. Are you sure that there is someone who knows that there's a process in place?
Right.
Yeah. The whole point is, even when you're dealing with three governments, which are anarchist in relation to each other, they have already put a system in place to anticipate this, let alone free markets. And the thing is, if I'm on Cell, and he's frowning, and you're on Sprint, and I call you, who pays who? I don't know. I promise you they figured it out.
Yes. And of course, if you are going to say that in any competing, just to use the word government, even not a state, but if you're going to say that competing governments or competing governing bodies can't work together and figure these things out, the obvious logical conclusion is that we need world government.
The only logical conclusion.
The only logical conclusion, I should say, is that we need world government. And I think pretty much anybody who even flirts with the idea of liberty would be like,
Rand.
or Rand would be like, probably don't want a world government, because if we have one world government and that goes bad, we're in a lot of trouble.
And what about the fact that we have city governments and state and federal?
Yes, that's right. And they all have deals together.
When
and
is the last time the NYPD shot the FBI? I don't know, but it can't come soon enough.
All right, that's a good one to leave. Thank you very much for popping in, Michael. And I look forward, we're going to have Michael on the podcast after the book is released at a date TBD, evidently.
We have a date.
Oh, you just said you don't know the release date, so I thought the date was...
The book's the 14th.
Oh, okay. But I thought you said you don't even know the release date here.
Oh, no, they never told me.
Oh, they never told you.
It's on Amazon.
Okay. It is the 14th
St.
then.
Martin's never told
Okay.
me, but I know.
All right. May 14th. June 14th or May 14th? May 14th. Okay. Tuesday. The book's coming out. Holy shit. Tuesday. It's coming up. Go get it. The New Right by Michael Malice. All right. Look at that. Nice poppin'.